Hello, everyone. We are back with It's Time to Toss the Dice. We will be discussing episode 4 of Amazon's The Wheel
Oh
of
no.
Time.
Well, 4,
4 and
5,
5.
6, and the beginning of 7.
Okay. So
Yeah,
we'll
it's
be
a lot
discussing, a lot of it just to get caught up with
with
the
the books.
discrepancies
Get us
between
to
the series and the
Feldara.
books. I'm Will.
I'm Lindsay,
So,
and um, we open with a cold open of the King of Galdon
yes.
being trying to be murderified by Logain.
Was Logain trying to kill him or gain his allegiance?
Both. He's got the
What it
creepy.
was it was one or the other. Either follow me or die kind of
he's
thing.
yeah, he's got the creepy people whispering into his ear.
Yeah.
So
The madness, the taint.
right, right. Galdon is beautiful, though. I love
Hmm.
it. The scene was great. Um, I'm not sure. What do you think about the taint?
It's that's something that I knew was going to be a struggle. As soon as I even heard that they were starting production on the series of the Wheel of Time, I knew channeling and the taint were going to be two things that were going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to
Hmm.
show or show well anyway.
Do well, yeah.
Yeah, and they did not do a bad job with either because there's not a lot that you can it's all mental inside. Like how do you put that into a physical representation? So it's not bad. I like the blackness that comes with it to show that hey, this isn't normal
Yeah.
or this isn't natural.
Yep. I agree. I think they did a good job with it.
Yeah.
Um, I like it. I like that it's got the white of Sidene under it
Hmm. And it's
and
wrapped in the
mixed in with
black,
it.
which and if you think about how the book describes
It's like an oil slick.
yes, Satan, it's like it's there's the pureness of Satan, and it's
Mm-hmm.
essentially coated in this filthy, oily, whatever. So it's
Paint.
yeah, with how it was described in the books and how Amazon represented it, I can't say that I can think of a better way to do it. I mean,
I don't. I don't. So we get to the camp where Moraine, Nynaeve, and Lan have met up with the Reds and the Greens
mhm,
and the Greens warders,
mhm,
and they are holding Logain
mhm. Yep, they're
like a
shielding him.
shield.
Yep, they're shielding him from Satan so that he can't channel or grasp or anything like that.
So I actually have a interesting question for you. This is gonna are we spoilering? Are we talking about stuff that happens later?
In the books,
Yes.
no. Well,
Well, I have sort of an interesting question about if we think that we're gonna see some of these Reds, not Leandrin, but some of the Reds that are with her appear later, specifically in
yes.
one of them in a very specific role later, where she gets together with the White to do the thing in the tower. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I do.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's several things where the Reds are very integral parts of the
Well, no,
storyline
it's
in
just the
later
two of
books.
them. They're given a special mission by the Amerlin to find this thing. My dog is whining. Can you hear her?
I did.
She's very upset right now.
I'll have to ask you after this what
Okay.
exactly you're talking about.
Cuz I when I see the younger Asian Red, I can picture her as that particular character.
Okay.
But I don't know if we're actually told who she is, like if she's just an extra Red at this point or if these Reds are meant to be continuing on.
Well, because we do learn the name of a few Aes Sedai here. Not a
Oh,
lot, but we learn a
yeah,
few.
Leandrin,
Well,
Alana,
we already knew Leandrin.
yes, Alana
Hmm.
and Karene, but that's
Hmm.
it. The other reds aren't named.
I'm not talking about just the red specifically, but the Aes Sedai.
I gotcha. Yep. Um,
So I mean, there are some major Aes Sedai that throughout the book series that we do meet in this camp.
Alana and Leandrin.
We didn't meet Leandrin in the camp. We already knew
Wow,
Leandrin.
but we know we only knew her because of the cold open for episode 1.
Hmm.
We actually meet her
That's true.
in this episode. Um, in fact, after Karene heals Moraine, I think the next scene is actually Leandrin talking to Heartsnot. Sorry, they have a Logain scene talking about how strong he is. Um, oh, what do you think about the shield? It's like I think it's weird because the shield is supposed to be on his mind.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's almost like he's bound there.
yeah,
Yeah, it's again, that's something that I can't be too um picky about, so to speak, because again, it's a mental thing. Like channeling is all 100%
right.
inside
And they
of
never
you.
describe how a shield goes in. It's just,
Yeah,
or at least not, it's just shoved into place. Not
yeah.
really.
So in um Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time, when somebody puts on a shield, it's basically using the one power to go between the person and their connection with the one power so that it keeps them from doing it. So I can kind of see how Amazon, since they can't show somebody putting a piece of the one power inside somebody, like that's impossible to
Right.
replicate or give any sort of physical value to. So I can understand
It
them.
works.
He's
Yeah.
bound. It's yeah.
Yep. Um, do you, are you, do you have it open?
I'm looking to see because there was somebody else that was in this camp that I thought we met. So I was looking to see if I
Oh,
was
no.
wrong or not. Because
Just Karene, Alana, Leandrin, and Maureen.
I thought there was one other.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I was mistaken.
Yep.
Okay. Nope, that's all I was looking for. I thought there was somebody else, but I don't know why I was
Nope.
thinking that apparently. I
Yeah,
was mistaken. Um, so yes, this is very different from the books, as in
it is. This doesn't none of this
this,
happens
yeah,
in
as
the
I getting ready to
books.
say, because the entirety of everything up to this point in episode 4, not a scribble was written about this in the books. This is purely from whoever's mind. It's
Right.
that we have no, we hear the stories early on in book 1 about Logain's triumph in capturing Gelden and stuff like that. So beginning of episode 4, we have that entire scene where he goes to the king of Gelden as he's capturing Gelden.
Right. Yes. Um, I like this episode. I like a lot of things in this episode. Um, specifically, I think the well, think about all of the things that we learn about the relationships between Aes Sedai and Warders.
This is the only part of the episode that made any sense to me as to why
But what do
this was
you
an
think
episode.
about Leandrin's conversation with Nynaeve?
Could care less. That I've
Really?
mm, this. I like the way they showed the way that the Aes Sedai and their warders, especially the Greens, I should say, like the fondness that they had for each other. Because we've seen Lan and Moraine up to this point, and obviously Lan would do anything for Moraine, but there's not a real fondness. They're
Right.
they're they're two arrows on the same course or two arrows in the same quiver with the same objectives. Like whereas when you see the Greens and the way they interact with their warders, like there's a fondness there. And then
Definitely.
the Greens being the only Ajah that are able to bond more than one
More
warder
than
if they
one.
choose,
Hmm.
the fondness that the warder that shared the same eyes that I had for each other as well. Like, it was almost as if they were brothers or something of the sort. Where I mean, all warders have the same goal, but these warders that were bonded to this singular Aes Sedai like shared an even closer fondness than that.
Yeah. I do also I like the conversation that Moraine has with Alana when they're the two that are shielding Logain. Um, you get a hint of that, like Moraine knows that Alana is trying to poke at her and get information. But at the same time, you can tell that they're friends,
Yeah.
right? So, but even I thought about because what you said about warders, like at one point, Moraine says something like, "You would have been a good blue," which is true. She would have.
Hmm.
Um, but Alana just kind of laughs and goes, "One warder, please."
Right.
Never, that never would have been enough.
Right. And now I believe it's said in the book that not all greens have multiple warders.
No,
Most of
just
them do. Most of them do.
a lot of yeah.
But it's not a
Greens,
requirement.
yeah, greens are also
They're the Battle of Shaw.
incredibly picky about their first one.
Hmm.
So I think the more that they get, the less picky they get. Maybe
So it's very the composition of the camp, I believe, is very
it's green and red and
weird.
Maureen
Yeah, because greens and reds don't
don't get along.
typically share a tent, so to speak, because reds essentially hate men and greens, have
Love them,
multiple warders. Like, many of them
right?
marry at least one of their warders, and
This is true.
so it's very strange composition.
But it makes sense if Logain has an
It
army.
it does like the
You need
battles.
greens to
the
fight the army,
the
and then
greens are
Logain's a
going in,
channeler, so
right?
you need reds, right? It makes sense the
It makes
composition,
sense,
but
but it's weird.
it is a very strange composition for a group of Aes Sedai because the greens and the reds do not get along. They're not quite as bad as the reds and the blues, but it's close.
Yeah.
um, so we do get a little bit of Egwene and Perrin at the Tinker Camp.
You do.
Yep, with some dancing and some learning about the way of the leaf
Hmm.
and all of that. Not a lot. And then we get um, Tom, Rand, and Matt coming up on the Grinwell farm.
We do. This is
The
the point.
episode jumps around a lot. So they're actually not at the Grinwell farm until it switches back to Moraine and Alana, which is that conversation I just talked
Hmm.
about. Matt's horse is going bananas. It's kind of weird considering that he's a horse trader.
This is what I'll say when I get to it. Yeah,
Um, Leandrin's fun. She does have that conversation with Nynaeve.
she does.
And I do wonder. So I'm gonna skip ahead a couple of episodes since we're gonna talk about them anyways. When they're in the White Tower in episode 6,
Okay.
I think it's 6, 5 or 6. Um, they when Moraine and Leandrin and Alana are brought before the Amerlin seat to pay for their crime of the unethical gentling of Logain. Um, Leandrin sort of um, puts Moraine in her place, so to speak, and makes it so that Amelin can't ignore what Moraine's been doing, which nobody knows because Moraine won't tell them. She won't tell the Amerlin, right? She says that she can't say. And um Nynaeve is brought up, and Moraine says outright, knowing we know that she can't lie, that she did not know Nynaeve could channel, which is very strange because in the books they they come within a certain number of feet of each other and they instantly know you can channel, how strong you are, and their potential, I believe.
Do I have to say it?
I mean, sure.
They fucked up almost everything that they've done when they've compared it to from the series to the
So
book.
my what I'm wondering though is why change that? Why have Leandrin give
Why
two
change? They changed
shits
shit in the
about,
opening monologue of this show.
well, that's besides the point. But like why have Leandrin
That's
give
one of the
two
most
shits about
important things.
Nynaeve in the camp if they don't know that she can channel? Why does she even care why Nynaeve is there? Leandrin doesn't care, right? So why would they change something that's so fundamental to the way that Aes Sedai structure themselves? Like the whole premise is you look at a group of room and you know exactly where you sit.
They changed the Carathian cycle 30 seconds into the first episode. But you're going to.
I mean, you're not wrong, but
The
this
prophecies
is
of the pattern were completely thrown out the window 30 seconds into the first episode.
right.
And it's
But
been
you're
a
you're
downhill
simply
slide since
talking
then.
about the addition of a female being able to be the dragon, right? And that's an inclusivity thing. I don't understand why they can't let women sense other women being able to channel. That
I
doesn't make
see,
sense to
the
me.
inclusivity argument doesn't make any sense to me because it's the Wheel of Time universe is a very matriarchal society.
It
It
is.
is not
It
patriarchal
so
at all.
is.
Like, yes, you have the dragon who is a male, like 100% undoubtedly a male. But you have the Aes Sedai who are essentially the governing power of the world,
True. Who are women
who are
exclusively.
exclusively women. I mean, they have their warders, but their warders have absolutely no say in the governing of anything. Like,
True.
the Aes Sedai choose the warders, and yes, Lan can give Moraine advice, but Lan can't tell Moraine what to do.
No.
Like, Lan is essentially Moraine's servant, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. I mean, that's even sort of alluded to in the episode. Moraine goes to spend the night with Swan.
Hmm.
And Lan says, "Be back by sunrise." And Moraine just kind of looks at him like, "Is that an order?" He's like, "Did it sound like a question?" Like, can he actually make her be back by dawn? No, of
No,
course not.
absolutely not. And she knows it, and he knows it.
Right.
And we see how matriarchal it is even later on in the books when we meet the Aiel. I mean,
Wow. Yeah, but that's way later on.
it is, but I'm just saying. So the oh, we can't just make this so that only a man can be the Dragon Reborn. That's not right. Well then, all right, I want to see frickin' Matt become the Amerlin seat. Like, if we're being inclusive, let's be fucking
Well,
inclusive.
so here's a question that I'll pose to you. We know from things that have been said about the books, that a female can be reborn into that position, and she's just called something else. She's not the dragon, right? I believe it's Phoenix. Yes.
Hmm.
So, but how do the people in this age know to call a female that's been reborn something other than dragon?
Say that again. I'm sorry. I I got distracted. I'm sorry.
So, so a female can be reborn into the position of the person who fights the Dark One.
Okay.
Correct? Correct? Do you
Yes.
agree? That's canon.
Okay.
So how would she's just called something else typically. I believe it's Phoenix, but I could be wrong. So how then do the people of this age know to know if it's a female to call her something other than dragon?
Then how would they have known to call her something other than dragon before?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's something that she does
So I'm
after
going.
she I'm just
This would.
presenting the alternate argument here.
No, 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 no. I understand what you're saying, and I would assume that in that sort of situation, like, because in the wheel of time, time is not a static line. Time, it's a wheel. It's circular. So what's happened before will happen again, but has also never happened ever before. You know what I mean? It's that
It's
kind of.
never happened exactly the same way before.
So yeah, like, so this has happened before, and it's gonna happen again, and it's also never happened before. So it's that kind of, conundrum
Weird. Yeah.
that the Wheel of Time world is based upon. So, you have, the beginning of the wheel, which there are no beginnings or endings, right? But,
At
like,
some point time started.
we're gonna start at this point here, and this is
Mhm.
where the dragon is, and then, he does his dragon things, and he dies and comes back and all this stuff. So I'm gonna say somewhere in that turning there, we're going to lose all history. We're going, like, shit's gonna get wiped out. Nobody's gonna know what happened in the last turning, so on and so forth. So when the prophecies for that turning are are prophesized or whatever, it's not going to be the prophecies of the dragon. It'd be the prophecies of the phoenix.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If
So if these are
Lews
the fucking
Therin
prophecies of the dragon, it's a goddamn dragon. When the prophecy says he will be born,
fine. Fine.
whereas if it
Whatever.
were in a different turning where it was a female who was the champion of the light and it was the phoenix, it would have been, the prophecies of the phoenix. She shall be born. Blah blah blah. Like I
Well, maybe, but you do have to remember too that a lot of the prophecies were written prior to the world being a truly matriarchal society. The Age
it,
of Legends was not a matriarchal society.
it wasn't, no. And
The
there's
Breaking of the World was not. It
right,
wasn't until the last 300 years
right,
that it's been. So all the prophecies were written before then. So maybe the use of pronouns is just because the last one was male. But
because
that's not really the way prophecies work because they come out of people's mouths
yes,
spoken.
it didn't say the dragon will be born on. It says he.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
we just
moving
got
on.
off on
Yes,
a
we get to the
wild
Grinwell
tangent.
farm with Tom, Rand, and Matt.
Mhm,
And they are allowed to stay in the barn as long as they
mhm.
muck out the stalls. Tom does not help because women don't muck stalls, I guess.
He had two young
I can't.
backs. Why did he have to?
This is true. This is true. Um, so they muck out the stalls. Matt's going a little crazy, but yeah, he jumps around a lot. We go back to the camp. I've got the episode open. I'm like fast forwarding through it. Lan and Nynaeve had a bit of a conversation um, about how horrible of a human being Leandrin is.
Mhm.
Not that we didn't already know that, but it is what it is. Back to the Tinkers with Perrin and Egwene. And they talk, oh, this is when Perrin gets asked about whether he was better off before or after he picked up the axe. Obviously before. Um a Gleeman must stay fresh for his performances. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's not wrong. It's
He
Tom.
he's not. I'm just thinking, like, they're in a barn on a farm. Like, what performance are you preparing
I
for?
know, right? For the 4-year-old girl, 5-year-old girl inside of the house. How old is she? I don't know. Matt goes out and throws up some black goo,
Hmm.
which doesn't seem like it's super healthy. It's like crawling out of his mouth. A little disturbing. Sad little girl. I guess she looks a little older. Maybe she's like 7. Comes to give him bread, and he says, "I have sisters," and she gives him
A
a
doll.
doll that she has named Brigida.
Hmm.
And Brigida has always wanted to travel the world. Brigida is a very special character in the book series. She's a hero of the Horn. She's a legend. Um, she's called Brigida Silverbow because her arrows never miss.
And she used a bow that was silver.
Did she?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Um,
Yes, her
um,
bow was silver, and yes, she was best archer the world had ever known.
yep. And we'll ever know,
Hmm.
probably. Um, and we will learn more about Brigida
Yep.
later in the series.
The person, not
She's
the
very
doll.
important. Huh?
The person, not the doll.
Right. The person who is the hero.
Yeah, not the
Um,
doll.
yes, that is, that is correct. Tom and Rand have a lovely little story where we learn about Owen.
Yep, Owen.
He's wonderful. We have an explanation for why Tom is hanging out with these boys and is a little bit worried about them. Tom thinks that Matt can channel.
Yep, because
He's a little bit worried about him.
he saw similar instances with Owen, but and
Yep.
Owen could channel.
Obviously. I mean, even in the conversation I just saw it, Rand goes, Matt's not an idiot. And you just sit there and go, he took the freaking dagger from Shadar Logoth. He's an idiot. Right? um we get back to the camp. I actually love this scene with Nynaeve sitting around the water fire. With the warders telling stories. I could picture that happening in the books. It's great. Um, I love how they give Nynaeve her little lesson on what it means to be Aes Sedai, what Aes Sedai actually means in the old tongue.
Mhm.
Um,
Servant to all.
yeah, servants of all, and how it makes them proud to serve the
Hmm.
Aes Sedai, and tired.
And
Which I don't blame them.
you can almost see on Nynaeve's face during the conversation that she's not starting to think she might have how do I word this? Not given
All the information, all the facts, correct.
Moraine, like jump to conclusions about what Moraine was trying to do, that she might not be as bad as Nynaeve was initially making
Yeah.
her out to be.
I will say, rewatching the episodes for us to talk tonight, and having read the books, Nynaeve spends a great deal of time in book one, talking about Moraine, and in the I don't know which person it is, but it's always she says,
Hmm.
you know, her, she, like it's some sort of, and I really wanted her to do that in the
Yeah.
episodes. But I think Nynaeve has a very profound respect, if not for Aes Sedai, then for the Warders and for what they do.
Hmm.
And through them, I think she's learning a bit of respect for Aes Sedai. Of course, we'll see later when she meets the Amerlin that respect is still about a sliver. but,
Hanging by a thread.
but I do think she respects the Warders a lot, and appreciates them and what they do. Um, Dancing at the Tinkerfire, fun. Not really anything exciting except Perrin fixes a wagon wheel and um, gets, told thank you and all that. Oh, and it told the story of Aram's mother who
Hmm.
died. I don't think she's dead in the books. That's okay. Big deal.
I think she is.
No, because he would routinely go back and forth between his parents' wagon and his grandparents' wagon. He would take Egwene with him, and Perrin would get all Perrin about it. um. Oh, then we get the dream. There's a dream sequence where Perrin is whacking on some human who's on an anvil, and Matt is walking with a bloody palm, and Rand is the only one who's lucid, going, "Oh my god, you guys!" And Balzaman gets Egwene. Tom wakes him up, and they find out everybody in the Grinwell house is no longer breathing. In
And
fact, there's blood everywhere.
this is the point where I almost stopped watching this series entirely.
Really, because of Matt?
Yes.
Because
So
they blamed Matt.
so we get into the Grimwall farm and Matt's standing there, dagger in hand, and you see the entire family has been murdered.
Yes,
And
brutally
yes.
bastard.
I mean, there's blood everywhere, bodies everywhere of the girls, the parents, like, and Matt is just standing there.
Sort of out of it.
Yeah, just almost as if in a trance or whatever. And I did. I was almost at this point where I'm like, I swear to God, if this is what they did with Matt, like I'm done with all of this. Like there's no reprieve for this. Like this
So
is unforgivable.
so it is only briefly though that they imply that Matt may have murdered the Grinwall
Yeah,
family.
Rand and Tom walk in, and this is what they see. They see Matt standing there
Right.
with dagger in hand and all the
And
dead
and
bodies.
and I can see where we're from the perspective of Tom and Rand, they might end their conversation previously of him potentially being able to channel, they might be sitting there going, "Oh,
What the hell to
what did
do?
he do?" Right? But then of course he lifts up the dagger
And
and does
points. Yep.
the I see you,
Yeah.
and Tom yells fade.
Yep.
So we know who killed the family. The
So
fade killed
yeah,
the
we
family.
discovered that it was a fade that killed the family, and Matt walked in on it.
Yes. Um, there is they don't explain this in the show, but in the books they do explain there's a connection, not really a connection, but a sort of the dagger allows Shadow Spawn, fades specifically, to be able to find Matt easier, to know where he is. They can
Hmm.
feel the dagger. And I do believe that has a little bit of a reverse effect where Matt has a sense for Shadow Spawn as
I don't
well.
know as if it's Matt that has the sense or if it's
Well, the
the
dagger
dagger
does.
itself through Matt. Like, cause
Right.
you know
And
Matt
because
is
Matt is holding the dagger, he's
yeah
gained that
he's
sort of. Yeah,
essentially
it's not
been
innate to Matt. The
right.
dagger has, and its unique sort of taint
Yeah,
has given him this ability to sort of sense.
it's corruption. Yeah,
But you only know that if you've read the books before watching the show.
right.
um so we're back at the camp. Karene and Leandrin are talking, and um oh, they just have a brief conversation. We get the conversation with Lan and Nynaeve, where we're starting to pick up here that there might be a little bit more than just um, Lan and Nynaeve. Warder and Chick wisdom of the two rivers, where they have a bit of something starting to get going on, which I like. It is actually. Why are you shaking your head?
I hate it.
Why?
I hate it.
Hey, what?
The relationship between Nynaeve and Lan
But
makes
it's in the books.
you show me in book one where any of this bullshit happened.
Okay, so this exact conversation didn't happen, obviously.
Nothing that happens in season one.
But when they are in Faldara in season one, and the Nynaeve is like in the room, or I don't remember exactly what it is, but they're talking about Lan, like she like holds her, like it's written, she holds her breath and is like you can tell that she's worried about him in the books. So it's there. It's just so subtle
The way
that
they fast forwarded it
they did fast forward it.
is if your intention is to do the entire series as an Amazon series, like if you plan on going book 1 through 14, then there's no reason to expedite this shit. You can see the relationship build and form as we go on, as opposed to just making it happen. Like it feels forced.
It does a little bit, but you also have to remember, I mean, season 2, they're gonna have almost no screen time together.
I know, and which is why, like, even in the books, like, there is that long period where they're apart from each other,
Right,
which makes when they finally are spending time together again, you can feel how important it is to them. Like,
right.
and Amazon has just completely fucking just shredded all of that. Like, just nope.
So if there's gonna be 8 seasons, when do you think they take their trip to the Sea Folk? I'm not gonna say what for. You know what for.
3?
Season 6, 5,
If they're only doing 8 seasons, and I mean, are they doing all 14 books in 8 seasons?
presumably.
Then it would be much, much before 5.
Season 4,
3 or 4 would have to be.
3 or 4. So then when does Moraine
2 or
break
beginning
out?
of 3.
3?
2 or 3. Because I don't know what the breakdown's going to be on books
Me neither.
to seasons. So I mean that would all depend on that.
Yeah.
But I I don't like
I'm
how
just
they
saying, like they don't, when you think about it, they don't really have as much time as you might think to develop that relationship. If you think about when they're gonna go visit the sea folk, is really not, and knowing that they get almost no screen time together in season
I,
2.
I just don't like it. It's I
I don't mind. I don't mind. I do, however, love Alana's shield with the arrows when the camp gets attacked immediately after that scene. I love that.
mhm.
I think it's fantastic. And I love how she holds the arrows up there until they start charging and they're close enough where she can actually feel like there's a personal threat to her so that she can attack them.
So I will say I did somewhat enjoy the conversation between Moraine and Logain
Oh, yes. Yes, 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 yes.
when Logain is still convinced that he is the Dragon Reborn.
Yep. And
He is
she's
still
like,
convinced
"You
of
are
this.
nothing."
And he said, "You are not the Dragon Reborn. As strong as you are, as much power as you are, like you are nothing but how does it word? Like a
Like a
flame.
candle next to the blazing sun or something like that.
Yeah. So I
Yep.
mean, just lets him know that you might be a strong male channeler, but you
It's
do not.
nothing. Right.
The power you have is nothing compared to what the Dragon Reborn will possess.
Now, that being said, again, having read the books and knowing canon, we actually know that Logain is quite strong.
Quite strong.
Um, he's forsaken. He's not quite Rand, but he's certainly within a couple of Rand.
Yeah, he's way up there.
Oh wait, did I just say Rand? Whoops. The Dragon
I
Reborn.
was gonna skate past it, but
Cat's out of the bag. Not that we won't know by next Saturday, anyways. Um, I love the battle scene with the warders and the Aes Sedai fighting. Logain obviously breaks free of his shield. He knocks Leandrin and Crane unconscious, breaks out of his prison. I'd love to know how they got another prison, just like the one that they had in the cave before they get to Darmel.
they always carry a spare. You never know when you're gonna find a Dragon Reborn laying around.
Yeah, right? You know, they just keep spares in like random little towns all over the world. And yeah, Moraine and his conversation, which is fantastic. Um, she and Crane and Leandrin try to reshield him. He sends a basically like an arrow bolt sort of Sidene at the three of them. Crane shields Leandrin and Moraine and gets hit. And that's when
Mhm.
she dies. Stefan feels it, starts to go crazy a little bit out on the battlefield. And they get the shield.
Bless you.
Ooh. sorry, mostly in place. Um, but Stepan shows up, and this is an interesting thing. I'm not sure how I feel about how they did the channeling in this particular case because Stepan shows up and he's got his axes, and he at Logain, right? Because warders, their number one thing is revenge, following the death of their Aes Sedai. But the axes sort of stop when they hit the shield of Saidin, which is interesting though because we know that a shield is spirit. There's nothing there to stop. There's no air, right? There's nothing there to stop those axes. So I don't
It's
know what I
not
think about that.
that's not necessarily true because there are very few, if any, weaves that are purely one of the powers or one of the spheres.
Yeah,
Like
but a
every
shield is just spirit.
it's not just spirit. It's still
It's
spirit
not?
woven with other things. Like it's going to be mostly spirit, it, but it's not going to be purely spirit. It's just like, if you're channeling a fireball, it's not pure fire. Like there's air in there, there's other, there's
Right.
a shield is
I
the
think
same
it's
thing.
just spirit, but I could be wrong.
And again, it's going to be mostly spirit, but I don't think that it's going to be
The wiki
purely
says it's a
spirit.
complex weave of spirit.
But hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure how I feel about that, but anyway, something between Logain trying to push out and Stepan's axis trying to push in. The shield shatters, and at this point, Moraine has shown up. Lan has shown up. Liandrin has woken up. She's already there. She and Moraine are doing the thing. A whole bunch of ice that I run in, all that, and they all get dead by Stepan's shattered axes. Um, except for Nynaeve, who wasn't quite in the room yet and almost got hit, but not quite. She sees Lan bleeding out on the floor. Realistically, she probably takes too long. I think he would have been dead if that was real life. And she, um, everyone in the room, magic, poof, all alive. And somehow the giant piece of wood that's in Moraine's middle is no longer in Moraine's middle.
And somehow, even though she's channeling Sadar and men cannot sense or channel Sadar,
I
Logan
Well, I'm going to go back to
notices
what you
this.
just said. I think that there's visible light. I think she channeled some form of visible light that he could see.
I think Amazon fucked up.
Well, okay, think about this.
Because
When she's doing the channeling, her hair literally like goes up above her head, unbraids itself. Like something had to do that. Logain would be able to feel that something, right? That's not just Sidar.
but if he can't sense the enormity of like how much of the one power she drew in, then he would have no. Because at this point, Logain is looking at Nynaeve and basically says a candle next to a flame or next to the sun, like
Right, but you
saying
also
that
have to consider like he can channel. He knows, I'm sure, to some degree, how difficult it would be to bring Lan back in that position,
and
let alone everybody else in the room.
if you go back to canon, like Logain is a much stronger channeler than Nynaeve.
Is he?
Yes.
Is he?
Yes.
Probably. But Nynaeve's healing is
No,
special.
no, yes, Nynaeve's healing is special. No, I'm
Yeah,
not
she does
arguing
have a
that at all.
talent in that. So her talent in that supersedes any level of actual strength in the power.
Absolutely.
But that could also be too, because he can't sense her actual strength. I mean, um, if all he sees is what she's done in the room, i.e., heal like 10 plus people all at once who are dying or basically almost already dead, plus if there was visible air or air moving, like pushing outwards from her with light, because she has no control over what she's doing, right? And Nynaeve does all of her healing is 5 weave healing, 5 thread healing. So makes sense. Then between what he's seen, what he's felt, and the light, he could just be like, "Holy fuck," you know.
He Amazon. I hated every bit of this. I you will not convince me that they didn't fuck that up. You cannot convince me that they did not utterly fucking destroy that. Because if he thinks that she's a dragon reborn, it would mean that it's impossible for him to be the dragon reborn. So he would
Oh, I
either
don't think that he thinks that she's the Dragon Reborn. I just think he's in
he
awe of her
100%
power.
he 100% thought that with just by the one statement. He repeated Moraine's statement to how why
This is
he
true.
is not the dragon reborn. So if he wasn't referencing, oh, this, well, then this has to be, then there was zero reason for him to make that statement. So he 100% is referencing that, oh, well, she must be the Dragon Reborn. Well, she's a Dragon Reborn. Even based on the conversation we had a few minutes ago, that means it's an impossibility that he could have even been considered the dragon.
Yeah.
So none of it makes any fucking sense.
So there, he is stronger. Yes, but that's also he's the same strength in comparison to other men as she is. But because men are generically stronger in the one power, he's stronger than her.
Hmm.
But but in his comparison to men versus her comparison to women, he's in the same. Yeah, he is stronger than she is.
Right.
By a fair bit, actually.
Yeah. Like Logain was not. They've had, he's not the first false dragon,
He
and
is one of the strongest, though.
he's probably the second strongest.
Um, I don't think he's listed as the
Er,
strongest here because we're not. He's either on par or just a smidge above Taim.
see, that's what I was thinking would have been above him. If he's above Mesrim Taim, then yeah, he's
I think
extraordinarily
he
strong.
is. The only people who are stronger than him are Forsaken and Brant
Okay.
himself. Yeah.
But I mean, he's not the first false dragon. He's one of the few false dragons that have actually been able to channel. Most of the other false dragons couldn't even channel.
Yep. And then Nynaeve is only not stronger than Forsaken and Windfinder and somebody whose name I don't recognize. Where is? Oh, they don't have. Oh, Olivia is stronger than Nynaeve, the Shanchan, which we
Okay.
knew.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're I don't know if you want to go past an hour or what you want to do because our hour is almost up and we only covered one episode.
Um,
With bits and pieces of other episodes.
the biggest complaint I had about this episode is that the majority of it never even fucking happened.
Well, yeah, I know, but it could have.
The majority of this never even happened, and
But it could have.
they did this instead of major events that actually did happen.
I would have liked to have more of Tom, excuse me, Tom Mattenrand.
I would have liked to have had Camelin.
Uh, yeah, I would have liked to have Camelin. Um,
Like, so we get the story about Gildan and Logain, which I don't necessarily am not opposed to having bits of Logain's storyline put in there so that we can learn a little bit more about him because we don't know much about him throughout.
Well, that and Logain is very important later in the book. So to give
He
him
is,
his time now is it's important.
but they could have done a little bit here, a little bit there, and not an entire episode almost focused on this person and take out major elements of the actual story.
Right. Now we did get a lot of
Like everyone,
actual story in like Perrin and Egwene's time with the Tinkers. That was
we,
almost
we
one for
did,
one.
we did, and there was a lot of it even with Matt and Rand.
Yes.
Up
Mhm.
until I almost stopped watching this shitstorm like
Right. So they
right
did
then and there.
condense Random Matt stuff quite a bit. They do visit a farm called the Grinwell Farm, where
Right?
Els is quite significantly older in the books.
Yeah,
But that doesn't really bother me. Um, so we did get some of that. I would have liked.
but they're taking away crucial pieces to add in pieces that hold no weight.
Yeah, I can see where the decision was made to because they could have kept this entire episode and still had them travel to Camelin in the next episode instead of Tarvalon. Um, because I one of the things I really liked about this episode was that it did give us the male perspective because all we've had so far is the female perspective on the one power to give us that male point of view to see what it's actually doing to him and his strength and Aes Sedai questioning themselves. I thought it was a great episode in that regard too. But um, yeah, instead of introducing a character from New Spring and her warder, and then killing her, and then sending them to the tower to complete her burial rituals, and then have Steppen do what warders do, um, they could have still had this episode and just not killed an Aes Sedai and had them go on to Caitlin.
They didn't. This
Because
this episode was
there really wasn't
unnecessary.
any reason for them to be in Tarvalon.
No,
I don't think.
there's no reason. I I don't like it. Again, not opposed to Logain's storyline. Would have been perfectly happy. They could have thrown in, a 3 minute clip of Logain in this episode, and a 3 minute clip in this episode, and a 3 minute clip in this episode, and still kept everything else that they had for the most part. As
Yeah.
opposed to here's an entire episode on Logain. Oh, you wanted Camelin? Well, you can go fuck yourself because that's not gonna happen. Like I
Right.
don't like. We meet
But
so
like
many
this
characters
episode
in Camelin that are major characters throughout the entirety of this series that uh,
well, and
uh,
we can talk about this during next week
okay,
when they do actually make it to Tarvalon and the differences between do you want to do that?
yeah,
All right. So next week we'll do at least episode
5.
5. Is that what's next? I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
even know anymore.
yeah. This was episode 4,
Okay. So we'll do at least episode 5 book comparison. Maybe we'll try to be a little
but
bit
there is no
quicker
freaking book comparison because
and go to episode
episode 5
6.
didn't happen
Well, there
either.
is because there is a Basil Gill. Come on now. There is a Loyal, right? Some of it's
Yeah, and where did they meet him?
Tarvalon.
Yeah, so it's not a comparison. It's
I know. But you know what? At least we got Loyal.
yeah, it's the way they fucked over Tom for almost 3 episodes. I figured Loyal was gonna come in like season 4.
We are getting Elaine in season 2. Hush your mouth.
Uh,
All right. You want to call it?
Alrighty, we will catch you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.